The British are a nation of animal lovers. Not in the sexual sense, of course. According to Wikipedia, that would be the Danish, which is incidentally why I've given up eating bacon. No, for the British, having a pet is like having a child, but without having to worry about them discovering alcohol, flunking school, joining the circus and marrying a prostitute. But enough of my early teens. I'm a cat person. I don't have anything against dogs, but they require a lot of responsibility. You have to take them for regular walks, feed them and clean their hutch out. Whereas cats, on the other hand, sleep most of the day and can feed themselves if you give them access to the garden or have a rodent infestation. And while I don't have anything against dogs per se, I do take umbrage with those greasy little dogs that seem so popular. If I was to own a dog, it wouldn't be one of those rats on a string. It would be a big, manly dog. Ideally one of those ones from Ghostbusters, you know, the terror dogs. Not only would it give the pitbull wielding chavs down the end of my road pause for thought, but they also live in fridges. And maybe that would stop my housemates from nicking my milk when they've run out. Getting back to my preference of cats over dogs, and it's not the practicalities that have swayed me. And I blame my liking of moggies on my parents, that and my gender-confused penchants for soft furnishings. Now my parents have 2 cats, and when I was growing up I didn't have to compete with my sister for our parents' love. No, we both had to compete with the cats. Those things get the best seats on the furniture, they eat better than most people, and my mother even had my father build a conservatory so they could sit in the sun without the effort of having to go outside. But it's not just my parents' domestic pets that get preferential treatment. I was around theirs the other day having breakfast when I heard a knock at the kitchen garden window. I looked around expecting my father to be there showing off his most recent attempt at self-sufficiency. But instead of Dad holding up his latest crop of withered carrots, my gaze was greeted by a squirrel peering in through the glass. The squirrel looked at me for a few seconds before dismissing me as just another walking piece of scenery, and knocked at the window again. At this point my mother walked into the room, and spotting her, the squirrel started to get excited. And so I said, Mum, there's a squirrel at the window, and I think he wants to be let in. Now as if it's the most normal thing in the world, she replies, Ooh, he's here for his biscuit. Obviously, what was I thinking? Of course he's here for his biscuit. So she picks up a packet of reduced fat fruit and nut biscuits, because they're healthier for the squirrel. I don't know, maybe he's worried about his cholesterol. Anyway, when my mother opened the window, the squirrel came scrambling along the window ledge and took the biscuit out of her hand. It then ran off to the bottom of the garden with its low-fat snack in its mouth, where it shinned up a tree. 5 seconds later there was another tap at the window and another squirrel was sitting there. So my mother gives him a biscuit too with the encouraging words of, There you go, little chap. This happened a 3rd time with another squirrel, and I swear to you, I'm sitting there on a Sunday morning eating a bowl of cornflakes while watching a pack of arboreal rats sitting in a tree, happily munching away on biscuits. It's not right, is it? But it doesn't just stop with squirrels. The local foxes get given anti-mange medicine in jam sandwiches, and the badgers get given worming tablets in dog food. The list goes on, but basically all you need to know is that within a 10-mile radius of my parents' house, natural selection is taking an extended vacation. And it's a good thing that Darwin didn't live near my parents, or our schools wouldn't be teaching kids that it's survival of the fittest, rather it's survival of the cutest. Getting back to the actual topic of domesticated pets, and the world is not as black and white as the "are you a dog or a cat person" question would have you believe. And pet shops are stocked with all manner of biological entities for you to take home. Now, rabbits, fish and budgerigars I can understand. They're either A, cute, B, low maintenance, or C, capable of an analogue of love, which is why you'll find them as the main characters in cartoon animations. These types of animals have been scientifically selected through extensive research by the Disney Corporation as the highest yielding method of harvesting money from parents with small children. And what does Disney do with all this money? Well, I have a theory that it's to allow the Disney Corporation to raise funds to advance cryogenics to the point where they can resurrect Walt. And once Walt's back, he can continue with his life's mission to usurp our children's hearts and minds by using animated characters with huge eyes and irritating voices. And once he has the support of our kids, it will leave him unopposed in his rise to becoming the undying emperor of all mankind. Now, I've got no evidence to support this, but it's just what I'd do if I had a large multinational entertainment business. One day. Anyway, as I was saying, I can understand those types of pets. What I don't get is the parents who buy their children vermin like rats, hamsters and especially gerbils. Aside from being the probable vector of the next antibiotic-resistant bubonic plague, are you aware that you're leaving your kids open to being accused of experimenting sexually, like the urban legend would allegedly have us believe that Richard Gere did? Google it. Even worse than the vermin lovers are those people that keep insects, reptiles or arachnids as pets. In my experience, these people usually fit into one of two categories. Either they belong to misanthrope loners who construct homemade crossbows from used washing up liquid bottles and sticky back plastic, waiting for the day the voices in their heads tell them to go on a grand tour of their local neighbourhood, or, as an in vogue kind of fashion accessory, they belong to evil genius wannabes hell-bent on world domination. I'm surprised that you don't see more publicity shots of politicians with snakes draped around their necks. I guess that's because the spin doctors have them airbrushed out when they're making all the other alterations. And while I'm on the subject of evil geniuses, I'm willing to bet that if Blofeld had been stroking a giant spider instead of a white moggy, he'd have shot Bond on the spot instead of monologuing at him for half an hour. And if that had happened, maybe the franchise would have stopped with the License to Kill. Yes, I said it, Timothy Dalton was the best Bond. Bring on the hate mail. Finally, just to reassure all those animal welfare groups out there, I don't own a pet. To be honest, with my lifestyle, where the solid parts of my evening meals mainly consist of dry roasted peanuts and ready salted crisps, probably the only thing I'm responsible enough to own is a plant. And even then, only one of those plastic ones that requires dusting every so often.